Well, good evening, friends. Good evening, folks. Welcome back to Kisumu Karate. I want to talk with you today about this phenomenon of Africans who are doing really well in Africa, who decide to abandon very good jobs for greener pastures in diaspora. Or there's a second group of folks who have done very well for themselves, are getting closer to retirement, or people who simply retire in Africa and then move to greener pastures. I'm only going to share my personal opinion on this matter. This is no judgment of the choices you have made. So if you're one of those folks, I'm not judging you. So don't take it personally. I'm only going to share what I observe and my personal thoughts. What I would do, not what you should do. Like I always say, do you boo. So in my view, I think it's a big mistake to abandon a really good job in Africa, get rid of stuff to go to diaspora to make life. A lot of people do that. Some people do it and succeed really well, maybe over time or immediately. I've seen people who resign from well-paying jobs in Africa, move to diaspora into some really well-paying jobs. But in my limited experience, that group is the minority. The majority of folks I have met who left really good jobs come to diaspora and it takes them a long time to really get back on their feet. So we're going to talk about all of that. I'll also share my personal experience as I left Africa 20 years ago, transitioned, and it was not easy. And then I'll share why I think it probably is not a good idea for you to do that. But as we do all of that, as always, we ask you to subscribe. If you enjoy what we share here, your subscription really helps us. You watching helps us. So thank you by doing what you're already doing. And we look forward to seeing you more in our next videos. I'm a Kenyan American who, of course, is in the process of transitioning back to Africa. And so I help people do the same, either through construction, through advice, through connections. And so if you need support with anything of that sort, my number is posted below. I'm happy to do so. But we are right in the middle of the village right now. Some people are surprised that the village can somehow have pretty much all the comforts you can imagine in the Western world. And that's what we create. So when my kids come here over summer or in December, there is nothing they have in Long Beach house that they can't get here. And here they come and get even more. So yes, the African dream is real and we're living it. And I hope that for those of you who are thinking about it, you will join us sometime in the future. So anyway, folks, that said, as I said, my position on this matter is that if I had an excellent job in Africa, and when I say excellent job, it doesn't have to pay a whole lot of money, but there are jobs in Africa that afford people a lot of comfort. You see people with personal chefs, people with drivers, people who have company homes, who have good retirement benefits, who live very comfortable lives. And then either through green card lottery or through some other means, they find their way to diaspora. And I've seen these folks resign. Some of them actually end up getting rid of stuff. And then they move abroad. The one unique experience that almost all of the folks in that group experience is that you move from being the boss in a place where you are literally catered to. And by the way, in Africa, they will cater to you. This afternoon, I was actually just at a shopping mall. I walk in the supermarket and there's somebody pushing my cart. Excuse me. Loading up my stuff and helping me move things to the car. I cannot imagine something like that in America. So well-paying jobs in Africa can afford you so much comfort you have no idea. And so when you abandon those jobs to go start from scratch, that is not the same thing as leaving a well-paying job in Africa and getting another well-paying job in America. If you abandon a well-paying job in Africa and then you start from scratch, oftentimes you move from 90 to negative 11. I remember when I left Kenya, I was actually a deputy principal at a high school, which, I mean, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think we were paid that much, but I was comfortable. And then I moved to Western Pennsylvania, and for the first time, I was jobless. I didn't have a source of income for almost like 5 months. And you have no idea what it feels like to come from a place where you're earning your own money, you're paying your own bills, to literally sitting, waiting for somebody to give you money to buy your own underwear. That experience is very emasculating, especially for us men. It's very tough. So I didn't have a job right away. I had to depend on my brother. And then, of course, when I got my first job, I moved from a place where I was in offices, in suits and ties for 6 days a week, straight into the kitchen as a dishwasher. It's a job I would absolutely do again. If I had to do it today, I would absolutely do that. But it was different. It was really different. It was really, really a humbling experience. And so what typically happens when you leave a well-paying job to start from scratch, you start with being jobless. You have no income, and then you start from the bottom. For whatever profession you get into, typically you start from the bottom. And so what you earn may not afford you the same comforts you left at home. And to make it worse, your bills at home are still there for those who still have family and all that, and you're just starting from scratch. So as a man, that can be quite a different experience. It was not easy for me. And it gets worse for people who end up even getting rid of property. I've seen people who are selling even their investment properties, selling their apartments to come and start from scratch. The second issue that you're going to experience is that oftentimes the average person, it takes you some time to settle, depending on the method or the pathway you use to come to America. Some of us came as students. It takes you a good bit of time. It took me nearly 10 years going through the entire process from my master's to PhD to starting as an assistant professor. It took me a long time to be able to earn what comes close to an adult salary. And so that period where you are transitioning is tough on you. Not only is it tough on you, but it's also affecting your family members. At that time, you don't have enough time for your kids. And I can tell you for a fact that there are a lot of parents today who are really struggling with the effect of that period in their lives because they moved to America, and they had a lot of survival to do at the time. Barely had enough time to take care of the kids because at that point you are mostly focused on paying the bills and keeping everybody afloat. And so that survival experience not only will be affecting you, but it'll be affecting your kids and your marriages, and it can be a very tough process. And then by the time you come back home, the peers that you left, and this is usually the biggest eye-opener, your peers are so far ahead. You're like, why did I even go to America, or why did I go to diaspora? So in many cases, you'd come back and find your peers are way ahead. Now, there are cases where you left your peers who are not doing as well. That happens. But yes, sometimes it happens that when you come back home, your peers are so far ahead. Like I tell folks, many of my peers right now have kids in college and all that. I'm still singing Baby Shark right now. And I don't regret it because I got kids at a time when I was ready in every way possible to take care of my kids. But there's always trade-offs. There's something you give up. I spent a lot of years in school focusing on just survival. At that time, my peers got married, had jobs. Many of them actually built their own homes and have done a whole lot. So in my view, abandoning a comfortable life, especially when your job is secure, to start from scratch, in many cases, ends up being just a little bit problematic because it sets you back quite a while. Many people often, over time, end up recovering and doing well. In the majority of cases I've seen, people end up recovering, doing well, and actually sort of making it up. But there are certain lost years. Sometimes the effects of that period last way longer than many people realize. Now, the last group that I mentioned too is a group that retires in Africa. Many of them are people who have built their homes, have every other comfort you can imagine, have investments everywhere, real estate, land, whatnot. They've done well for themselves. They retire, excuse me, and then you move to diaspora, start from scratch. If you're doing that, that's fine. It's your choice. I don't think it's a problem per se, but I would never do anything like that. Knowing what I know in America, I would never do anything like that. Because at that point, again, you have no idea what it means to move to diaspora. Excuse me. And for the first time, you can't even move from point A to point B without depending on somebody. And then the weather comes in, depending on what part of diaspora you live in. The weather comes in. And then some people end up in menial, low-paying jobs, like maybe driving for Uber or just starting from scratch. You have no idea what it means to drive Uber with prostate issues, stuck in traffic somewhere in LA or somewhere in Chicago or all that. It's not a fun idea. So again, like I said, It's your choice. You can do whatever works for you, but there are certain things I wouldn't do. I would not abandon a comfortable, reliable, stable job in Africa to go start from scratch in America. I know many people do this as a way of quote unquote creating opportunities for their children. That's totally fine. And that's how some of us actually made it there. That there are people who sacrificed, went ahead, opened up ways. There's nothing wrong with that. But it is helpful to know that those things have consequences. It doesn't always work out. And even when it works out, it may work out for you and your spouse, your kids not so much. There are people who unfortunately did everything they could have. But because of that survival experience, their kids are currently really struggling. And as a parent, I can tell you there is nothing worse like something harming your child. So like I said, if you want to abandon your job and move to diaspora, that's fine. You can do that. If you want to retire and move to the West, that's fine. You can do that. But personally, I would not do that. Anyway, folks, my 10 minutes is up as always. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.